big ups to all our sponsors, including Post Office. This is a great space. We're here in downtown, and you can see a little bit of the window. It's a little dreary out there, but people are still out, and it kind of dried up for a second. It's in the middle of downtown. You want to check them out if you ever need a space to come in through and hang out and do a little bit of work. Go ahead and pop in. There's a cafe downstairs and get you some fresh coffee. They make sandwiches. They have fresh fruit. And it doesn't cost anything to just hang out downstairs. But if you want to come in to have an office or an actual desk and get some of this Google Fiber going on, then you're going to, it's only $15 for the day.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. We have a quick announcements. I am giving away some Sketchable App unlock codes. So you already have unlocked, right?
I do.
You got it. You got the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you're good. So if anybody wants to try out Sketchable and draw on the iPad, then you can. Just download the free app. It's free to just try it out. It has some limitations, but go ahead and try it out. And then draw. And if sometime today during this live stream or even after you want to post a picture or two and tag me on it, the hashtag is, let's see, I wrote it down somewhere, and it is, it's artistking_sketchable. So go ahead and try that out and then tag me, and somebody's going to get some of these unlock codes so you can draw if you have a Windows 10 or a Surface of some kind. All right, so that's me, DTM. We're going to go ahead and get started. Give a big shout out to our sponsors. So here we go, sponsors. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our awesome guest for today. Her name is TeMika Grooms. I've known her for a long time now. And you know what's crazy? I was going through some changing email inboxes from one to another, and I was looking for stuff to save. And I don't know what I was searching for, and your email address, your email that came up, and I think your first email was asking about the meetups or Artist King or something. And I know it was in 2012.
I know, it was a long time ago. Yeah, long time ago.
Wow.
I've been at this for a long time.
Yeah. 60 years is not that long.
Well, it feels like it. But it's been longer than that, though. Mm-hmm. It's been longer than that.
That you've been at it, right?
I've been at it, yeah. So.
And I was like, wow, I've known TeMika for a long time.
But I needed some help back then, so I appreciate you coming in. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your name, what you do, where you're from.
Okay, my name is TeMika Grooms. I go by TeMika the Artist online, everywhere. So my website, my Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Just look it up. I'm a military brat. I'm from Fort Benning, Georgia, but by way of some other places. And I've been in Atlanta for a long time, so this is home. And what else you ask me? What I do? Why am I here?
Yes. What's going on here?
I'm an illustrator and a fine artist. I do both, but my main thing that I do now is children's book illustration. And I really have a passion for that because it lets me tell stories visually and in written word and work with people who love to do the same thing. So that's what I do.
Nice. But that's what you kind of focus into now. But you do like a lot of different things. You're just certified as a yoga instructor. Yeah. You do retreats for artists. You've participated in lots of art shows. You continue to paint still. You organize events.
You know how people say you got a little Jamaican in you? I might have a little bit of Jamaican in me.
Because Jamaicans do a lot of stuff?
That's what they say. I don't know. I'm just talking. But I like having a lot on my plate because then I'm a little bit more productive. If I don't have things going on, then I don't do anything. So
I think there's people like us who just have a lot of creative energy and creative ideas. And then and when today's world, there's so many outlets available to you that it would be kind of boring if you just stuck out with one thing all the time.
Yeah.
And
that drives me crazy.
Yeah. Sitting there looking at the same thing constantly. Much respect to all of those who are out there doing that one thing all the time, but it's a little bit tough.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So I get it. And so what's I know that we were talking earlier about some upcoming things that you're working on. And one is you're going to be at the Decatur Book Festival.
The Decatur Arts Festival.
Arts Festival.
Yeah. And so every year I work with an organization called SCBWI. It's Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators.
Okay.
And I work regionally with illustrators and a regional team that puts together conferences and meetups and different events to help people who are interested in children's books to get education and support for what they're doing. So. So every year we work with the Decatur Library and the Georgia Center of the Book to put on an art show with published illustrators to showcase their work at the Decatur Library during the Decatur Arts Festival. So it is a part of the Decatur Arts Festival, and if you're interested in seeing the work, it'll be up all month in the month of June. But we have an opening night on May 25th. I believe that's the date. But it'll be posted. So.
And where do we go look for it when it's posted?
You can go to the Southern Breeze SCBWI website. I'll have it on my meetup. Which is the children's books, Atlanta Children's Book. Oh my God, I gotta post it. It's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words, man.
But there's an Atlanta Children's Book Writers and Illustrators meetup.
Okay.
That you can find on Meetup. And I also go by Kids Lit Art, ATL. Kids Lit ATL. You can find that information there for the hashtag.
Or just look for TeMika Grooms.
You just find it there.
Look for TeMika Grooms somewhere on Google.
That'll be easy.
And you'll find a whole bunch of stuff too. Nice. So tell us a little bit about your growing up as an artist. Did you feel that you had a talent you wanted to develop? Did you feel that there was something you wanted to do as an artist, or did your creative, did your professional path take you somewhere else?
I think both. I was always an artist. My mom said I had big hands when I was little, and I know I did, but I grew into them. But my mom was a librarian. And so I think being around books, I had an affinity for writing and illustrating, and so. After she passed, I found like all of these books that she saved, like 7 of them, and they were books that I illustrated and wrote when I was little. So, so probably between the ages of 5 and 8 or something like that. So, so I have those. So I got documents saying that I did this when I was a kid. I'm glad she saved them. But so anyway, so I think I always was an artist. But when I was in high school, I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? And I think at that time she wasn't sure. She didn't want a starving artist back then, and so I took the path of being an engineer. And I'm very right brain, left brain, so I like science and technology, but I'm also very creative, and I need both sides to feel balanced. And so I kind of took a different path, and I still work as an engineer, but I also work as an
How
artist.
much school is that to be an engineer? What kind of engineer?
Civil engineering, so I design roadways, utility stuff, ugly stuff you don't want to see.
But that's the stuff we use every day.
Stuff you use every day. And stuff you're using like right now in the city of Atlanta. So.
And do you like sketch it out, or you have to write it out?
I use vector software to design it, and we put together all these big plans. So
Vector, like 3D vector type stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I still use software and design. It's just a different type of design. So yeah. It's all art. It's just some more technical than others.
And then the children's book stuff. So 6 years ago, when we first started emailing, what was going on that you felt that you were ready to, or were you already doing art? Were you trying to? What was
I was already doing
mind?
art. That was 2012. I was already doing art, and I was already exploring children's books, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how to make money doing it. And I got tired of people taking money from me to do art. So I needed some business sense.
Okay.
And tried to figure out how to do that because I knew I was talented, but how do you make money being an artist was the issue that I was having.
So you were drawing books already?
I was already drawing books.
Yeah.
That
was, and the painting, was that something that you've been doing on the side also, or?
So a lot of times I would do portraits of people, and so either with charcoal or pastel or some sort of paint, usually acrylic. I would do portraits and fine art paintings, and so when I started doing the children's books, a lot of people were coming to me saying, I want you to do a children's book about my daughter or something like that. So having the skill of being able to do portraits really came in handy because I was able to translate that into book illustration as well.
So what do you paint with? What are your mediums?
Okay, so I started out with ink and gouache, watercolor, acrylic, but now I'm almost totally on the surface.
On digital.
And I know a lot of artists, they start out with the actual traditional materials and then translate it over, but I'm really enjoying having to be able to carry the surface with me all the time, and to pull it out whenever I have a project that I gotta slip in a little extra time in when I can, and not having to fool with the traditional materials really helps a lot. I still enjoy using those, but just the portability of having the digital tablet helps a lot. So,
okay.
So
all right. So
I'm almost all the way converted.
Do you touch? So when you paint, you still paint with acrylics, or do you not paint as much?
I don't paint as much, and I use it for the fine art, but it's been a little while since I've focused on that. So mostly with the children's books, I do the digital. Yeah.
And when you say wash, is that like watercolor?
Gouache.
Gouache.
It's similar to watercolor. But it's a little more opaque. You get you can get a richer color from it. So yeah.
Nice. And so slowly you moved into digital, and what is it that you like about digital besides the portability? Because I'm sure you don't need to have a whole bunch of art materials out when you're working.
Yeah. I like that I can revise very easily, especially working with clients. I work with a lot of self-publishing authors, and some of them know what they want, and some of them are easier to work with. But for those who aren't, it makes the revision process a whole lot easier. If they say they want a color change or something minor that might take a long time in traditional media, I can do it very quickly with the digital. So so it makes revisions and putting the book together. I use the whole process, the Photoshop and InDesign now, to be able to finish off the book as well.
All right, so you kind of illustrated that. A writer will come to you and say, "Here's my script. I wrote something. Can you help me?" And you would take that script, do the images that need to be for the book, and put the book together so that they can send it off to a printer.
If they pay for that.
If they pay for it, right?
If they pay for it.
As long as they pay for it, okay.
Right.
Nice. Let's see if we got some kind of comments. We got Leslie says, wow, civil engineer and illustrator. That's right. Move the camera. All right, make sure I'm in frame. No.
Okay.
And that's good. Yeah, that's right. So you kind of got like both sides of the brain working.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's good.
I used to think I was an anomaly though, but I'm realizing that now everything with STEAM is going in that direction anyway.
Right.
But there were always people out there like that. So I ain't too special, but I know that we're being trained more now to think right brain and left brain, and creativity is being accepted as something that's viable and that should be paid for.
That's right.
And they're training kids to be that way. So I'm appreciative for that. I wish it had been like that when I was a kid.
Right.
It is what it is.
There's a whole lot of stuff I never heard of growing up.
Yeah.
And that is happening today. So that's kind of cool that at least we're making things accessible. And I think creativity is also becoming more accessible too with just the technology, like you say, using the Surface or any digital device. It allows you to not have to start drawing all over.
Yeah.
And because we have drawing tablets that are very cheap nowadays, the entry point is kind of a shorter jump than it was in the past.
Absolutely.
Today we have all these smartphones and iPads and things to to do a broadcast, this live stream, where before you had big cameras. And I remember, and I have pictures of all printed pictures and stashed away somewhere. When we used to do creative stuff, you needed a lot of big equipment to make things happen. So that's good.
Yeah, things are changing.
So tell us a little bit about your drawing process when you jump on Sketchable. Earlier you were saying something about you like the hard, you know, and so like this one has a smooth, soft tip, but this one has a harder one. And did you try it?
Yeah, this one's great. And I like this cover that you have on it too.
Let me switch on the camera.
So the process that I use.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
Say, for instance, if a person comes to me and they have a story and they want to see if I can illustrate it. Usually I want to read the story first because every story is not going to be for me. And my style of art may not fit what they're trying to do. So I usually have a conversation with them about, you know, what their plans are for the book, what their business plan is. Because I don't.
Oh, you just don't draw? You just say, do me a drawing, let's draw it?
I appreciate it when people want to do stuff for their grandma, but that's not why I'm doing my work. I want people to put their books out in the world, but also be prepared to market the books and not just have it sit on the shelf to say that they accomplished this. I want them to go out and, you know, they have to do the work.
They have to live the author life?
They have to live the author life. And that's a plan that they have to have ahead of time. So we have a conversation. And anyway, so once they sign on to say that they want to work with me, then I start with illustrations.
Okay.
Sketches, and my sketches look like boo-boo.
No!
No, they do. They do. When I first start, it's just something really rough. And it may be a thumbnail sketch. So
everything starts with a quick thumbnail to see what
to get the ideas out.
To get the idea out. And do you have a preferential software? You don't have to say Sketchable if you don't want to, but Sketchable is awesome.
I am going to tell the truth. I really like Sketchable.
All right, good, good.
And the reason why though is because I started with traditional media, and so I love Photoshop and all the creative suite as well. But for me, I need something more basic. At this point in where I am, so that I can just get in and get the work done, and then I translate it over to Photoshop and all the other stuff that I have access to. So it just makes it easier for me. But I think I've done 2 or 3 books completely in Sketchable.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I love it.
Good. And you set up your drawing, what do you call it, your sketchbook inside a Sketchable to be the size of the book?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if it's not quite the size that I need it, I port it over to Photoshop and then adjust it there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let me talk about Sketchable for a second.
Cool. I'm going to sketch.
And while you sketch, number one is that Sketchable is a drawing app that, like TeMika had just said, I had that same experience where you finally get into the digital drawing world, and you start exploring different tools and different machines. And I experimented with several different types of machines, and as time went on, everybody keeps talking about Photoshop. Everybody mentions their favorite software, but when you're starting out, you kind of want to just focus on the drawing or that type of art style that you're familiar with to get you into the digital side. And so I tried Manga Studio, I tried Photoshop, and back a few years ago when I started drawing on the surface, Photoshop wasn't ready for the surface and in digital drawing and on a tablet like this. It were already artists with Wacom were already using it, and that was very comfortable for them. But then when it was time for using the surface the way it is for drawing with Photoshop and even Illustrator, it still wasn't ready quite yet. And that's where Sketchable worked really great for me. Because even though I like Manga Studio, it's still a ton of menus everywhere. And they all have a purpose, and there's a reason why they're there. But as time goes on, you want to go ahead and get the drawing out. Just want to go ahead and get the sketch out, get a feel for your composition and so on. And Sketchable makes it real easy by having a ton of little different tools here available for you to just click on and move and use. So let's go ahead and switch a camera and try to zoom in to what Tamika's doing. And so just like a piece of paper and a pencil, you can start with Sketchable in sketching something out, but then start switching through the different art tools, and then get to the point where you start painting or finishing that drawing and with a more polished style. And there you go, just a lot of scribble scrabble. That's cool. Right? And is this a person you need to draw? Is this something you need to draw?
No,
or you're just doing that.
No. I picked up a turtle today on my walk, and so I was like, let me just draw a kid holding a turtle.
Uh-huh.
So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
All right. Do you like to draw from using references?
My drawings turn out so much better when I use a reference. There's something about looking at how the body is put together. Mm-hmm. Especially drawing children, because they look like little aliens and they got stuff going on that's out of proportion from what we see ourselves as adults. Mm-hmm. So it's important, especially with children, to use references. So I don't always do it, but it helps. Nice. It helps a whole lot. I can tell the difference in my work when I do.
Do you ever ask Chloe?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. and she is my art director. And she reads everything I write. She reviews everything that I draw. Mm-hmm. So if it ain't right, she's going to tell me first. So. Mm-hmm. And that's your daughter. And how old is she? She's 10. 10. So she'll be 11.
So she gives you plenty of feedback.
Yes. and honest feedback, too. She don't hold no punches.
She's involved in the feedback. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So let's see. I want to show some of the tools that we use, mm-hmm. and I know some of my favorite tools with Sketchable. Okay. And it looks like you're drawing with the pen, one of the pens. And is that a tool in particular you start with?
No, you know what? Usually I start with a pencil. I just picked it up and started drawing. Mm-hmm. But usually I'll start with a pencil, mm-hmm. and then do another layer and maybe refine it. Okay. So like I said, the first sketch is usually horrible. Yeah. But I can go back and mm-hmm. This head is way too big.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little big.
It is big.
Yeah.
But I need to do that drawing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
But my kids sometimes have, not my children, but my kids.
Your drawings,
my drawings, they usually start off with big heads, and then I have to resize it a bit, or either just adjust it. But I'll do the sketch and then bring the opacity down, and then do another.
And then
layer.
Do another one. Mm-hmm. So it looks like you kind of did the body. You didn't do no lines or anything. You just did the body.
Yeah, I try to catch the gesture first, and see how that turns out. Mm-hmm. Especially if I'm just drawing from my head.
And what's that hand doing right there?
I don't know. Oh. I think I'm trying to brace just in case she drops. But hands are not easy. No. And so I'm struggling with this one right now. But it's all good because it's just a sketch. It's just a sketch,
right? You can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And do you like drawing girls more than boys, or do you...
Because I think I have girls, and I know how they move and the crazy things they do, dancing around and just gesture-wise, mm-hmm. I think it's easier for me. Mm-hmm. I can draw boys, but it takes a little bit more work for me. Okay. So, which means I probably need to draw boys more often. Oh, okay. That's usually a sign. And of course you raised 2 girls, so you kind of used to seeing. Yeah. You can visualize it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so most things end up as girls. I'm a little biased. Go ahead. That's okay. It's all right. What'd you do with the turtle you saw today? And where'd you find it? I put him down because I don't have a right to pick up a turtle and put him somewhere else, just like you don't have a right to tell anybody what else to do. But all right. All right. So I felt a little guilty because I was going to put him somewhere. But anyway, so the turtle, I was walking, hiking through the woods. Oh, okay. Just meditating or whatever. And he was in my path, and I picked him up, and he screamed. Oh yeah, he did. They have screams. Yeah, he screamed. They make noises. And then he shut it down and started shaking. So I scared him. So We won't pick up the turtles.
Okay. So you put the turtle down like 1 or 2 feet over?
Yeah, I took him off the path, so because I almost stepped on him. Yeah, he was about to die.
Oh, okay.
He was gonna die today.
Lucky.
Yeah.
All right. So, a couple weeks ago, when I was setting up for the podcast that I did 2 weeks ago with Doodle Slice,
yeah,
I did a quick Facebook Live talking about how writers need to find artists and how artists need to talk to writers. So maybe you can add some your own thoughts into this. I'm sure you have a process, but what is it that writers should look for? What's their process should be when they're looking for an artist to work on their book?
Yeah. So,
So should they just say, "Hey, draw my book, damn it"?
No. First thing is to be familiar with children's books and how they're put together and what's standard. Like even what's standard across the board in the traditional market. Because a lot of people go into it and they don't know. And they haven't done the research and they don't know what sells. Because once you have a book, you're going to be competing with all of those people, the self-published authors as well as the traditional market, which is even more massive because they have wider distribution channels. So my first advice is to get really familiar with children's books and to know what's out on the market, know what's being produced. And then the second one is to really start looking at illustrators that do what you might want to do in your book. So you and I have very different styles, right? But we both do children's books. The way I approach a story may not be the same way that you approach a story. So it's important that people go on to websites, and Instagram is great. Behance, which I still need to set up my... don't judge me. I know you've been telling me to do it forever. I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to do it. But like go out online and see what people are actually creating and look specifically for children's book illustrators, because a person who illustrates for a different market is not necessarily going to be able to illustrate for a children's books. With children's books, you're doing the same characters over and over again sometimes, and if they don't look the same, a child will see it and it throws the book off. So you need to be familiar with what that person has done in the past and what they're capable of doing, and you can find that out online. So just doing some research.
So research is double, two types of research. So number one is this industry. You need to research the industry. Just because you're a writer doesn't mean the industry is ready for you, or that you know what you're going to do next.
Correct.
So it's best to look up other authors, maybe, and and books that are similar in story, and then and look through the kind of art styles that they carry.
Correct. And nothing is new under the sun, so don't think that your story is necessarily unique either. So
that topic might have been covered already by somebody.
But what are you bringing to it as an individual? That's different. In your illustrative style, and also in the writing.
And so people should go hang out at Barnes & Noble and take a look at that whole section of children's books.
Yes.
Find the area that fits their age group and stuff. And then research the sales. What are the hot books that are selling right now, and what areas or what cities are hot? How would you?
I guess I would think in terms of topic. I know for a while, like robots were a big thing.
Oh, I see.
And that whole STEM thing.
So if your book covers a topic about robots and that's what's hot, you can tell by looking at sales numbers what books are more popular and what lists and what age groups are really popping off. Right. Is there a time of the year when books sell more than others, like when school begins?
I would imagine so. I would imagine during that time it would. I don't know that for sure, though, but that's a great question. I know in terms of working with self-published authors, I usually get hit at the beginning of the year. I get hit during tax season.
When there's money around.
Right, when there's disposable income.
To invest.
Right. And then usually approaching the last 3 months of the year, usually those are my busy times with doing self-published projects, because people have goals and they have disposable income. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm writing down notes. I'm writing notes. And what I want is the last part, some industry, and then artist. And you need to find out when you're looking for artists. Okay, so now that you're looking for artists, you should look for the type of artist that carries the art style that you want to portray in your book. Not just because you know an artist.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen that done too, and usually doesn't end well. So, unless that person has a background in illustration, in illustrating children's books, then they might be able to do a great job. But everybody has to start somewhere too. Right.
Because there's like artists who like to draw, they like to draw scary monster. Horror stuff, and then you're asking them to draw you some characters, and that's not their thing.
Right.
And so you're already and I think that's the other side that we need to talk about also. As an artist, you need to gauge the projects that you're working with that fit your style. But it's not going to be easy to work with that kind of artist to switch and get a kind of book that's going to fit.
Yeah.
And I think the other part you mentioned was the character has to look the same throughout the book. So you have to be consistent with your drawings.
Yeah. And that's not easy. And there's ways around that. Like you can study your character by doing character sketches and do them from all angles and, above to the side, all different kinds of movements so you understand who the character is. Just like a writer would if they were doing they were writing a story, they would study the character first so that translates as a believable character throughout the story. So you, as an illustrator, you have to do the same thing. But sometimes you have to develop that skill to be able to do that too. And it's not, just because you can draw doesn't mean you can do it. It's a skill that you learn. So,
All right. I want to add two more things that I think if you've written a book, is the first one is peer reviews.
Yes.
And that kind of adds into groups, to being involved in a group, and I think that's where the value of SCBWI and Artlit meetup is that you get to be around other artists but writers who can read your story and give you feedback.
Yeah. So the children's book meetup that I run, I work with SCBWI to bring that in as well. But the Kids Lit Meetup, you don't have to be a member of the organization to be a part of that. But the important part is that you're not writing or illustrating in a vacuum. You really need to let other people see your work, have some feedback given on it. Like I said, I use my daughter to give me feedback, so she's my first critique person, but I also need adult feedback too, and maybe people that are in the industry to give me feedback as well. So when I go to SCBW, I sign up for critiques. I sign up for reviews by agents and editors so that they can give me professional feedback as well and let me know, is my portfolio going in the right direction, or is this story even interesting, at this point in time, and would they want to see it at a later time? So it's important for other people to see your work and give you some perspective and some tips too.
Nice. And I think that if you're a writer and even any kind of creative, there has to be a part of you that has to be willing to accept that feedback. The constructive criticism. You have to look at it as constructive criticism, and you have to search for it and get your feelings a little bit hurt.
Yeah. I had to work through that.
Yeah.
I got a big ego.
Oh, yeah?
And I hold it down, but it's hard for other people to look at your work. And I remember like the first time I had somebody look at my work, just to even lay my portfolio out on a table for a mass of people to see, I was sweating bullets because I was not confident in my work. I was too worried about what other people thought about it, and I was too attached to it.
Right.
So what they said mattered too much. rather than me being able to take the criticism that they might have to make it better, I wasn't in the right space for it at the time. So, but now it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
So.
With experience, as time goes on, you're able to accept it and say, "Sure, I'll try that." And so then that comes down to the last thing. When you're looking for an artist and you find that artist you're looking for, let's say you wrote the book, and you got some criticism and you adjusted some of the storytelling. What should you be ready to share with an artist to see if that artist is a fit?
You have your manuscript ready. You should have a budget for your project. Like have that in mind and know what people are charging for illustrations already, so that you can be in the ballpark of what that artist might ask for, and you don't get sticker shock. What should you be prepared with?
Maybe some background on these characters besides just the story.
Yeah, and know how many pages you might want to have in your book. Know how many illustrations you might want to have, so that the artist will be able to give you a quote based on that as well. Yeah. I think that's
all.
Yeah. There's probably some other stuff I'm forgetting.
It should have enough details. One thing that I ask for art writers for is references. Like, show me a book. Show me a couple books that have the art style you're looking for and the kind of characters you like.
Yeah, I've done that as well. And that also helps a lot to make sure that you're the type of artist that person.
And I can narrow down the kind of artwork that we're going to do and establish what that is, instead of me trying to sketch all kinds of different things that may be not what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
All right, that's good. That's some good little feedback. I like that. All right, so now we're going to move on to the part where you're the artist.
Okay.
And somebody says, "Tamika, I wrote a book. Here, can you illustrate it for me?"
Yeah.
What is it that you ask of art? Or you mentioned that you talked to writers and said, "Well, first know your industry and be prepared for the kind of writer lifestyle," which means what, like book signings, looking at distribution.
Book signings, like start to identify schools and school districts that you might want to work with. Libraries are actually more open now than they were maybe 10 years ago to people who are self-publishing, which is great. The market has changed, I think, because there are more people that are publishing their own books, and I think that there are traditional publishers that are recognizing that, and they're adjusting. So, and libraries are adjusting too, and the quality of self-published books are going up too. So I think if you reach out to your local librarian and you have a good quality product, you can probably get in your local library or the bookstore.
But what about those writers who just want to have that one copy of their book to keep in their house?
But I don't know about those people.
As long as they have the budget, you'll still do it?
I wouldn't, because that's not my client. For somebody else it might be, especially if you're just starting out, it might be okay so that you can understand the process of putting together a book. But for me, I want my books to get out there in the world. So I kind of...
So you don't want to be the artist that does the illustrations for a book just because somebody has to do the illustrations. You want to do them because they fit your agenda.
Right. There's certain stories that I'm looking for, and usually the people who come to me, I kind of have already figured out what type of client they are, and I still see those same type of people over and over again. So,
so you kind of found your niche?
Yeah, I found my niche.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's cool. It's cool. Yeah. So I'm not going to be the person who draws that one-off book. I would like to at least see that person. Usually it's going to be a mother of color that has a child that wants to illustrate a book that represents that child. But I've had other people that are not mothers come to me as well. So it just depends. It just depends. But
are there certain themes and subjects that you're focused on exploring with your work?
No, not specific themes, but I do want them to be stories that are uplifting for children. I do tend to focus on children of color, and that's important to me, having children of color. And I know that there's a movement that we need diverse books, and also on voices. I want people who are of a certain demographics to write their own books, so that there's adequate representation within the children's book market. So even though right now I'm mostly working with self-published authors, no matter who I work with, I would love, it to be a theme about diverse books and diverse stories, because I think that's important. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah. So
you found your lane.
I found my lane.
That's what you want. Yeah. That's good, and that's kind of hard for artists to figure out, and it's hard choice to make and keep.
It is. The struggle is real. The struggle is real.
Part of it is the creativity that it wants to take you different places, but then part of it is that when those projects, there's an ebb and flow to those type of projects, and so when there aren't any projects in the horizon, you kind of you feel tested to go ahead and try anything.
Yeah. And then also too, I have my own projects, so I can make those be whatever I want them to be. So even though I'm working with certain people on the projects that are paid, on my own, I can do whatever I want to.
Right.
So if I decide to diverge a little bit in a different direction, I can do that.
Yeah, and you have a everyday job still, and your engineering, and then you have your art, and I think that you have an advantage in that you can focus on your own personal art when the other people's projects are not available at the moment.
Right.
And I kind of get into that with my tattooing, that I still have clients and I still have a business running, and then I can pick and choose the other projects that I work on.
Yeah.
So we still have to compromise a little bit.
Yeah. There's always a compromise somewhere, but you still got to stick with your passion, what you're passionate about too. So.
That's right, exactly. And that's been the hashtag this year: exercise your passion.
I love it. Yeah.
Very nice. So we're getting ready to wind it down, and I want you to tell the world where we can find you online. And I think I have the links around here in case you need to remember.
Okay. I probably
but
do.
I only have the links to your personal stuff, not to the groups and meetups.
Okay,
but,
no, it's all good. So you can go to TeMikaTheArtist.com. So it's TEMIKA, the artist, spelled the normal way, to look at my website for children's illustration. You can also check that out online on Instagram and Facebook. Mostly I'm on Instagram, so I'm always scrolling through Instagram. But yeah, those are the best places to find me. And just reach out to me if you have questions about doing your own books or working with me or finding out more about the organizations I'm affiliated with. So. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes, reach out and ask her about the meetup groups and children's book illustrators and writers, because I think that's really cool. Yeah. Really cool to have. Yeah. Awesome. So now the last question of the day.
Yes.
If you were looking at TeMika of 6 years ago, when you somehow heard of us, how did you hear about us, or how did you get?
I have an artist friend named Jody Harris, and I stayed connected with him because he's heavily in the art world, and I needed some help, and I was trying to figure out how to get help, and he mentioned you. Okay. And so I already knew about your work and what you were doing, and so
all right.
So yeah.
And that's when you sent out the email.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
So 6 years ago.
I think it was 2012. It was 2012.
What, did I answer your question?
No, but no, I kind of diverted sideways. Okay. All right. So the real question is, if you were talking to TeMika of 6 years ago, even 8 years ago, what would be some of the art career advice you give her?
Be diligent about creating. And don't stop. Ask for help when you need it, and get advice from people who know more than you know. And my biggest thing, I think, is always just continue to educate yourself. You know, whether or not you're working with somebody else, or if you're reading a book or signing up for a workshop, just keep striving to learn more. and then that will inform your work. Like for me, everything informs my work. When I'm walking by people on the street, or the turtle, now the turtle is going to be a part of something somewhere, but everything informs your work. So don't take anything for granted. Notice everything, see everything. When you're online, make it purposeful, but just absorb and let that come out into your work.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Awesome. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So the last words that I have is follow artistking.org. Go to the website. We have a page full of events, so you can see what's upcoming with the events. And I'm gonna try to catch up with Tamika to add some of our events on there. As soon as I see something new on Facebook that artists should be aware of, I go ahead and add it to the website. So check out artistking.org /events. We also have over 90 interviews, including an interview I did with TeMika on the podcast. So if you go to iTunes and look up Art is King, you'll find over 90 artist interviews. And then the last thing I want you to do is go to YouTube and find our channel, where we will upload this video later on today, and all the other interviews that we've done so far this year are on the channel. So check us out. Stay tuned for more. Check me out, Delta Tango Mike, out everywhere on the internet. Big ups to Sam Flax, Sketchable, Microsoft Innovation Center, Post Office, Cowork, Cultivating Cultures, Azalea Creative Group, DJ Otis for the music. That's who's the music you're hearing. And then Velocity Screen Print, they do our t-shirts. And we're about to have some fresh, brand new ones for 2018. Yeah, some Artist King shirts are coming up soon. Check out Cinemaker. This is the app that we're using here today. And you can always get a 30-minute art business coaching session with me by following the link that's in the description of the video. It is at deltatangomike.com /art-biz. And you can scroll all the way to the bottom. The only condition for that free consultation is that it has to be on Facebook Live so that other artists can learn from that. So you want to check that out. And then all my artwork and tutorials when it comes to art and design is at Vector Maestros on YouTube. This is DTM. TeMika Grooms, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And see y'all next 2 weeks from now. We're going to have Liberty White. That's what's coming up. Yes. Talk to y'all later.